This is KTVO's Good Morning Heartland.
And welcome back. We've all eaten something a bit spicy and had some after-meal heartburn. Today we have Dr. Justin Puckett from Complete Family Medicine here to discuss over-the-counter options to treating and even preventing the symptoms of heartburn. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So I've had heartburn before and it's not a pleasant feeling whatsoever. So kind of just tell us what causes heartburn to begin with.
Sure. Well, the esophagus, the food tube, meets the stomach, and at that junction, right at the level of the diaphragm, right under the ribs, just shift it off to the left a little bit. At the bottom of the esophagus is something called the LES, or the lower esophageal sphincter. And that little bit of muscle's job is to kind of control the direction of things going up and down. And so when food's coming, it should relax and allow for food to come through. If we need to belch, it should relax and allow that excess air to come out. But sometimes it gets a little miscoordinated, and during that time, some of the acid that's naturally made in our stomach to process the foods can slip their way up and in the wrong direction and up towards the esophagus. And when that esophagus doesn't, it's not used to seeing that acid, and so whenever that acid hits there, it does burn a little bit, and that's what gives us that sensation of heartburn.
Now, I know for some, I want to say have like chronic heartburn issues where, you know, every time they eat or anything like that. Now, can that be dangerous?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're having heartburn more than just occasionally, maybe a few times a month, then that's definitely something to discuss with your physician, because it could become something more. Esophageal cancer can develop from that, and people die at a young age from that, unfortunately. So it is something important that we want to make sure that we're talking about with our healthcare provider. All
right. Now, we know that there are a lot of over-the-counter medications. How do we know which one we should go for? What should we be looking for?
Well, if you just have a short-term heartburn, then utilizing something like an antacid can really help to relieve that. Those things are products even that come where you can make into a liquid formulation like Alka-Seltzer. The most common, though, probably are either Gaviscon or Rolaids or even Tums. And so their job is primarily to work to neutralize that acid that's there. So if you're having it occasionally with a meal, take that, settle down the acid, and it might go on away. The other groups of medicines actually work to reduce the acid, and those are H2 blockers. We think of those as the weaker heartburn medicines, but they do work to decrease the amount of acid that's actually made. And the most common ones that we see are Pepcid, Tagamet, or Zantac, and those are all available over the counter. And then the third group of medicines are the proton pump inhibitors, and those are the ones that used to only be available via prescription, but now you can get them at the over-the-counter. It's recommended that you only take them at the dose indicated on the package, and that you take them for no longer than 14 days. And those are things like over-the-counter omeprazole, over-the-counter over-the-counter Prevacid, Nexium, and the like.
Now, what works best when it comes to treating heartburn? Is it just depending on the person, or?
Well, if it's long-term, even if it's intermittent but yet long-term, trying to avoid those things that you know bother you. Quitting smoking and drinking alcohol. Alcohol is a relaxant and will cause that lower esophageal sphincter to relax a little bit. And so those sorts of lifestyle things are important. You can even elevate the head of your bed 4 to 6 inches, not eating 3 hours before you go to bed. Those are the primary things lifestyle-wise, and those are probably more important than the medications. But again, if you're having intermittent spells, and sometimes it'll flare for a little bit, take the medication. If it goes away, great, over the counter, but otherwise you need to see your healthcare provider.
And like you just mentioned, so if you're having it more than just occasionally and you go see your health care provider, what are they going to do for you?
Well, they're going to kind of ask lots of questions and indeed ensure that it sounds like it's heartburn. It could be something else. It could be more cardiac related and could be related to the heart, especially if people have risk factors for heart disease. So they're going to ask all those sorts of questions. If the case is severe, they may recommend an endoscopy where they go down where you're taken into the hospital and put almost to sleep, but not to sleep with a breathing tube, but made so that you don't remember. And then they insert a small device into your stomach and look around the esophagus, and they can actually take biopsies and ensure that you don't have any changes there that are consistent with precancerous or cancerous conditions.
All right. So obviously heartburn, for some you might think that it's not a big deal. For others it may be a big deal. So the best thing to do is obviously catch it at its early stage, especially if you're having it more than once a month, if at all. So what we'll do is we'll provide everything on our website at heartlineconnection.com. We'll also link up Dr. Puckett's information with Complete Family Medicine if you have any questions or concerns. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And we'll be right back.